yo, keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show.
You're listening to The Tom Daniel Show, and I'm your host, Tom Daniel. Today I want to plunge into a world where passion, ego, and undeniable talent collide with each other. And that's the explosive world of music feuds. You know, behind some of the greatest songs and most iconic artists, there's often an intense, fiery conflict burning just below the surface. My focus today is all about the truly fascinating various feuds between composers and performers of many genres and styles of music. In addition to classical music, I want to explore pop music, jazz, blues, country, rock, soul, and rap. And this isn't just a casual ranking, as I want to consider each feud's ferocity, for which I've created my own little rating system, the public drama, and the musical cultural impact of each feud. Now, I'm calling this episode Beyond the Backstage Brawl, the top musician feuds of all time. Now, I actually could create about 8 separate lists with one going to each genre and style because music history is loaded with cranky, touchy little artists getting little feathers ruffled over each other. However, I've boiled them all down to one single list of the heavy hitters, with the full acknowledgement that I am going to be leaving somebody out that you've thought of. Trust me, it's not an oversight. When you got about 90 major musical feuds to choose from, somebody's not going to make the cut. Now, what about this rating system I mentioned? Instead of using a Siskel and Ebert thumbs up, thumbs down thing or a Netflix star rating, I created my own system. I call it ferocity, and using little flames. One flame is kind of intense and 5 flames is nuclear. I considered the public drama displayed in the feud and their musical cultural impact, as well as any little anecdotes I could find that defined the feud. Unfortunately, due to copyrights and publishing rights, I can't play any of the songs that I'm about to reference in this episode because I can't. I mean, I could if this were a classroom, but I can't because it's the internet. Oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Anyway, I guess you could say that this is a Hall of Fame top 10 list of musical feuds. Well, sort of. Normally, this would have been a top 10 list, but since Spinal Tap finally released a sequel, well, this list goes to 11. So let's all go backstage beyond the brawl and look at the top 11 musical feuds of all time ranked by combination of ferocity, public drama, and musical cultural impact. So starting off at number 11, we've got Taylor Swift versus Katy Perry. The ferocity rating is 1 flame. Now, once friends, they initially fell out over backup dancers defecting from Swift's tour to Perry's tour. That was all followed up with a bunch of digs and personal slights all over social media. Taylor Swift then wrote and released the Bad Blood music video, widely interpreted as a diss track. Now, if you're not familiar with what that is, a diss track, diss stands for the word disrespect, is a song written specifically to verbally attack another person. Katy Perry then fired back with a bunch of veiled jabs in her tweets, and she even tweeted that Taylor Swift was Regina George in sheep's clothing. Now, again, if you're not up on pop culture, Regina George was one of the mean girls in the movie Mean Girls, and Katy Perry was accusing Taylor Swift of being cruel while pretending to be sweet and innocent. Yeah, okay, I guess. Whatever. Fans and tabloids followed every move until a public reconciliation occurred in 2019 with Katy Perry appearing in Taylor Swift's video, You Need to Calm Down. Katy Perry was a big giant cheeseburger, and Taylor Swift was an order of fries, and they got together and hugged each other. So, yeah, okay. That's reconciliation in the digital age, I guess. Now, the impact of their feud, it defined digital age celebrity rivalries. I mean, their feud influenced marketing, PR, and songwriting and storytelling in modern pop music. Their feud demonstrated how quickly rivalries can play out today in the digital age, in full public view. Although it was less fiery than some of our other rivalries in the list, it was no less intense because the drama was amplified by social media, which was their battleground. They fought it out over social media. And the signature moment of the feud occurred when Taylor Swift released the video Bad Blood, which was definitely widely interpreted as a direct jab at Katy Perry, cementing the feud in pop culture history. Next up, number 10, James Brown versus Otis Redding. We're getting into some soul music now. And my ferocity rating of this feud is 2 flames. Now, the chart battles and subtle public jabs defined their rivalry. James Brown's tight funk and stage show clashed with Otis Redding's emotive Southern soul. Although James Brown was the undisputed godfather of soul, he could still be fiercely territorial in the music scene. Otis Redding's rising fame in the mid-'60s threatened Brown's dominance in the charts. There was tension between them over basically who owned soul music at the time, though it never really became outright personal. Otis Redding had a lot of respect for James Brown. Do you see what I did there? But in interviews, Otis Redding positioned himself as the voice of a new generation. Their impact was it highlighted generational and stylistic tensions in soul music, basically old school soul versus new school soul, and that tension has never released. It's still ongoing with today's current soul artists. The signature moment came when James Brown liked to mock Otis Redding's smoother style on stage. But Otis Redding always retorted in interviews that, James moves, but I make people's hearts move. Now, ironically, there actually was an incident involving a shotgun in Macon, Georgia in 1963 when a different performer named Joe Tex started mocking James Brown, pretending to get trapped inside of a giant cape on stage, which was part of James Brown's stage act. James Brown got furious, and he went to a party where Joe Tex was supposed to be and shot up the party with his shotgun while looking for Joe Tex. Now, here's the ironic part. The live music at that party was Otis Redding. Coming in at number 9, we're going to shift over to blues music, and we've got Muddy Waters versus Howlin' Wolf. And I give it a two flame ferocity rating. The drama between them, this was basically the heavyweight championship of Chicago blues. Waters and Wolf were both protégés of music producer Leonard Chess, and both of them wanted to be his top dog. Muddy Waters was smooth and commanding. Howlin' Wolf was raw and feral. They respected each other's power, but they stayed rivals for decades. Howlin' Wolf hated Muddy Waters' habit of taking credit for songs that were actually written by his own backup musicians, and Muddy Waters dismissed Howlin' Wolf as just being too country. The rivalry occasionally escalated to physical confrontations between their fans. Not them, but between their fans. And the impact on their rivalry is that it shaped urban blues sound and directly influenced rock and roll because of that. And the signature moment between them came when, during a live performance, Waters and Wolf reportedly got into a shouting match over which band would play a set first, right there on the stage in front of the audience. And, of course, all that tension just electrified the audience. They loved it. And now, coming in at number 8, we're shifting over to classical music, and we've got Richard Wagner versus Johannes Brahms. Wagner versus Brahms. And my ferocity rating is 2 flames. Wagner and Brahms were involved in the so-called War of Romantics in the mid-19th century, and they fought ideological battles mostly through critics and their followers. Wagner wanted a progressive, theatrical approach to compositions that was loaded with chromaticism, which he called the future of music. His style clashed with Brahms, who was a nostalgist and favored a structural, traditional approach to music. Now, they never brawled in person, but their fans certainly did at times. Concert halls became battlegrounds sometimes. Now, the impact of their feud is that it basically defined 19th century Romantic music. It divided both audiences and fellow composers into the progressive versus traditionalist camps. And the signature moment occurred when Wagner supporters reportedly booed Brahms's premieres, while Brahms followers called Wagner's music monstrous and overblown. And now coming in at number 7, we're going to stay in classical music, and we've got Claude Debussy versus Camille Saint-Saëns. And the ferocity I've given this one, we're going up a little bit, is 3 flames. Public criticism and stylistic insults marked this feud between French composers Debussy and Saint-Saëns. Debussy, as the younger revolutionary composer, criticized the older Saint-Saëns' conservative compositions, while Saint-Saëns derided Debussy's impressionistic style as just a passing fad. Saint-Saëns once stormed out of a public performance of Debussy's Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun. The two men exchanged barbed comments for years and embodied the generational clash in French music. I wonder how it would have gone if they had had social media at their fingertips back then. The impact of their feud, it basically symbolized generational and artistic tension in all of classical music, and it helped define French Impressionism's break from tradition. The signature moment, to me, is when Saint-Saëns dismissed Debussy's Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun as nothing more than a sneezing cat. You gotta love that one. You're listening to The Tom Daniels Show. We'll be right back.
What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniels Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniels Show. What are you waiting for? The Tom Daniels Show.
Now, welcome back to the Tom Daniels Show, and obviously, Mary Mac is the world's most perfect band. There's no musical feud going on in Mary Mac. Now, we've been talking about the top feuds in music, and we're basically halfway through. Coming in at number 6, we've got country music. We're going to get over to country, and we've got George Jones versus Tammy Wynette. And my ferocity rating on this one is 3 flames. The drama between them was marital abuse, public blame, and musical call-outs intertwined their personal and professional tension. Their marriage was country music's greatest soap opera, and their divorce was highly publicized. Consequently, their solo hits sometimes echoed the bitterness of their broken marriage and relationship. Tammy Wynette accused George Jones of alcoholism and abuse, and he accused her right back of betrayal. They eventually reconciled enough to actually tour together again, but always with a huge edge of tension. Now, the impact of their feud, their personal feud, inspired legendary songs and shaped the tragic, romantic narrative in country music. And the signature moment, I think, came when Tammy Wynette released Divorce, and Jones later released some heartbreak songs in reply to her, and they were all interpreted as veiled commentary on their failed marriage. Number 5, we're going to get over, I don't know whether you call this pop, soul, or funk, but it's kind of all three. But we've got at number 5, Michael Jackson versus Prince. And my ferocity rating on this one is 3 flames. It was really the ultimate 80s rivalry. Prince versus Michael Jackson. Wow. And it featured dueling albums, public digs, and performance stunts that just threw gasoline on the flame of their competition with each other. Both artists competed for chart dominance, for signature sound, for compositional genius, and performance innovation. Michael Jackson's signature trait was his dancing, and Prince's signature trait was his prowess on the guitar. Michael Jackson invited Prince to duet with him on the song Bad, but Prince refused. One of the most amazing things to think about for me is that their albums Thriller and Purple Rain were out almost at the exact same time. Man, we didn't know how good we had it back then. They always teased fans with rumored but unrealized collaboration for some kind of supergroup that just never happened. But man, can you imagine Michael Jackson and Prince recording together? Wow. The impact of their feud is that it pushed the creative boundaries and pop culture influence at the height of their power. It made them better to try to top each other. And the signature moment, a really famous one, happened in 1983 at a James Brown concert in L.A., ironically enough, James Brown again. At that concert, Michael Jackson pulled Prince up on stage, and Prince tried to upstage Michael, failed, and then stormed off the stage. Now, coming in at number 4, we're going to switch over to jazz music, and we've got Miles Davis versus Wynton Marsalis, which I've given a ferocity rating of 4 flames. We're getting hotter now. To start with, Miles Davis feuded with pretty much everybody, by the way. I mean, he feuded with Dizzy Gillespie because he thought Dizzy was too much of a clown. He feuded with Thelonious Monk because he didn't like the way Monk played behind the beat rhythmically. And he feuded with Charlie Mingus because Mingus was too violent, and he's right. Mingus was a pretty violent character. However, Miles Davis's most intense feud was with fellow trumpeter Wynton Marsalis over the philosophical battle of jazz innovation versus jazz tradition. Miles saw Marsalis as overly rigid, while Marsalis criticized Davis's free-form fusion experiments. Now, it's important to note here, this is interesting, the innovator was the old guy, and the traditionalist was the young guy. Miles was old but very innovative, and Wynton Marsalis was young but very traditional. Their public comments, interviews, and debates became emblematic of the tension between jazz's old guard and the new directions in jazz. Wynton Marsalis often accused Davis of being a sellout, and Miles Davis accused Wynton Marsalis of basically being a museum piece. The impact of their feud defined generational clashes in jazz, and it highlighted the evolution of the genre and debates over authenticity in jazz versus innovation in jazz. Now, the signature moment in their feud happened in 1986 when Wynton Marsalis tried to walk on stage during Miles Davis's set at the Umbria Jazz Festival in Italy. And the 60-year-old Miles Davis squared right up to Marsalis, got in his face, and growled, "Get the F off my stage." You gotta love Miles Davis, man. And coming in at number 3, back to rock music, we've got Axl Rose versus Slash, the Guns N' Roses feud, which I give a ferocity of 4 flames. Now, once partners in crime, Axl Rose and Slash split in the mid-90s with bitter words of personal betrayal. Axl Rose was the lead singer and frontman for the band Guns N' Roses, and Slash was the band's iconic top hat-wearing lead guitarist. Axl called Slash a cancer and swore he'd never work with him again. Slash accused Axl of being unprofessional and impossible to work with. Public insults, lawsuits, over 20 years of silence characterized this bitter feud between them. Disagreements over band direction, songwriting credit, and personal clashes fueled media speculation. And their eventual reunion, actually, in 2016, was highly anticipated and celebrated by fans worldwide. The impact of their feud shaped late 80s and early 90s hard rock and fan obsession with rock star drama. And the signature moment for their feud came when Axl publicly criticized Slash's guitar solos as unreliable, and Slash reportedly ignored all of Axl's attempts to reach out to him for decades, fueling lots of gossip columns. So now we're down to our final 2 feuds, and things are really going to heat up, because coming in at number 2, we're going to go to rap music, and we've got, of course, Tupac Shakur versus the notorious B.I.G., which I give a ferocity of 5 flames. It's my hottest feud rating possible. 5 flames for this one. Now, the Tupac-Biggie feud stands above all others in rap for sheer ferocity, cultural weight, and its tragic real-world consequences. What started as a mix of personal grievances, basically an armed robbery where Tupac suspected Biggie's circle had foreknowledge, plus diss tracks and public taunts, it escalated into the infamous East Coast versus West Coast rivalry of the mid-'90s. Vicious diss tracks, public accusations, and rivalry that escalated into real violence. Hip-hop magazines, MTV, and radio fueled the conflict, amplifying every barb into a coast-wide war. Now, Tupac's song Hit 'Em Up is the single most notorious diss in hip-hop history by far. The feud was amplified by media coverage, East Coast versus West Coast tensions, and gang affiliations. Tragically, both artists were murdered within a year of each other, cementing the feud in music lore. Now, the impact of their feud, it rewrote the rules of hip-hop beef and elevated the diss track as an art form and left a lasting cultural and musical legacy. The feud between them defined that entire era of rap, and it's often credited with pushing the art of the diss track to its extreme. But it also spilled tragically into reality because both Tupac and Biggie were murdered in drive-by shootings within 6 months of each other, 1996 and 1997, with each side blaming the other. Now, the signature moment of their feud has to be Tupac's Hit 'Em Up, which called out Biggie directly. He sang, "Who shot me, but your punks didn't finish." And that ignited an epic rap war. Now, it wasn't just a feud. It was a seismic cultural rupture. Nothing else in rap has ever matched the lethal mix of artistry, anger, and consequence of the feud between Tupac and Biggie. And finally, we get to number 1, the Paul McCartney versus John Lennon feud, which I give a ferocity rating of 5 flames. Now, the drama between the two of them, they had their own diss tracks. They filed lawsuits against each other, decades-long personal animosity. McCartney and Lennon often exchanged subtle and not-so-subtle lyrical jabs. Now, even before the Beatles broke up, Paul wrote a song called Get Back, which was a dig at the constant presence of John's girl Yoko in the studio. John accused Paul of writing nothing but syrupy, sappy love songs and granny music, and Paul then responded with a number 1 hit called Silly Love Songs. Paul accused John of being lost in political nonsense and grandstanding, and John followed up with the absolutely cold-blooded song How Do You Sleep, which attacked Paul directly. Paul released an album called Ram, which showed Paul holding a ram's horns on his farm in Scotland, and John immediately released a photo of himself holding a pig by the ears. Their legal battles over song rights and royalties intensified the feud for years. Now, since John and Paul copyrighted and published songs under both names, they had to split royalties even for songs that only one of them actually wrote. Paul once complained that John did not deserve any royalties from his song Yesterday. And John replied that, Paul could always give back the royalties he'd gotten from John's song Imagine. The impact of the feud between John and Paul redefined band breakups and reshaped modern pop rock culture. Their feud became emblematic of how artistic partnerships can fracture, influencing future bands and public expectations of celebrity relationships. The signature moment has to be John Lennon's song How Do You Sleep, which included just really biting, cold-blooded lines like, "The only thing you done was yesterday," directly mocking Paul McCartney's contributions to songwriting. Another line in the song said, "Those freaks was right when they said you was dead." Wow. All right. This list raises an important question, I think, for all of us. I mean, how do modern feuds, amplified so rapidly today by social media and fueled by direct fan engagement, differ from the more historical ones? What does this new landscape say about the nature of celebrity and public persona in our current era? It feels like the speed and directness of communication has really changed the game. So what does it all mean? I mean, we've just explored this incredible spectrum of musical feuds spanning centuries, from the philosophical musings of Wagner and Brahms to the violent, tragic classes of Tupac and Biggie. Each feud is a testament to the passionate and often volatile world of artistic creation. And for all their drama, it's really crucial to remember that these feuds often sparked innovation and pushed the artist to new creative heights. It's not just a bunch of gossip and tabloid fodder flying back and forth, because they're often a painful and significant part of music history. These feuds shaped the sounds and stories we still love today. The pressure of competition, however brutal, sometimes can forge diamonds. This has been the Tom Daniel Show. Keep listening, keep learning.
Yo, keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. Keep listening, keep learning. The Tom Daniel Show. Take a break from your usual routine and tune in to the Tom Daniel Show.